So as an HVAC company grows, labor becomes the largest variable expense. A small increase in cost per install compounds across, hundreds of projects, especially over the years. So mastering this KPI is going to ensure that your growth doesn't quietly kill your profitability. So the first thing we're going to calculate is just a simple hourly rate. Average hourly rate by, Controls and Brandon Shaw, by Rooftop Units and Carlos Vega. And then from there, we're going to show an overage of hours, meaning there's a projected time and there's an actual time. What is that variance? And then from there, we're going to multiply that out, meaning what is the cost of this variance? So if a project is supposed to take 10 hours and it takes, say, 11, which is a 10% variance, and you multiply times the hourly rate, what is that cost? And then here, this is an average cost per job, meaning for Rooftop Units, Brandon, on average, he's coming in with the labor cost being $182 higher. So this number here isn't a huge deal, but when you multiply it out, it really adds up. This is $378,000. And so let's get started here. So pretty basic data set, something I'm sure you've seen before, but it's pretty much, project ID, when was it done, job type, all that stuff. PM name. But the main thing we're going to want here is we want labor cost. You can have the rate. We're not going to use this because we're not taking like an average of this. We're going to take the sum of this and divide it by the sum of this. And then finally, we have planned hours versus actual hours. And the only column we have to calculate here is just the difference of these two, meaning equals actual minus planned. And you can see it took an extra, hour and 22 minutes, or 1.22 hours, which in this example, I guess 20% of an hour is what, 12 minutes? Okay, and you might not be this granular. Again, this is just an example with dummy data. You might not be having it, oh, you're 12 minutes late, stuff like that. But just the whole purpose of this is to show you that over time, little inefficiencies do add up. Okay, so the first thing we're going to need here is we need to get a unique list of the project manager and a unique list of the system type. Pretty straightforward to do in Excel because there's a function called unique. So PM and then equals unique. And then you can just go here and I'm going to show you something with using tables. So you can see here that we know the table name is table install labor. And then we know the column name is PM name. And so we have this here. So I'm going to sort this alphabetically and then copy and paste. Control Shift V. So copy and then Control Shift V and you can remove the formula. So it's the same thing here, but now we know it's in a table. We can just type this out now. Right. And so that's the benefit. I mean, one of the many benefits of using a table, but that's one of them. And you can see inside of the formula sort of what it is you're working with. And then here, again, we want to sort this. And then finally, we want to put it across the row. So transpose. Again, copy and then Control Shift V. Okay, so the next thing we want to show here is we want to show the essentially the average hourly cost that the PM is accountable for. So what we want to do first, let me just show you here. So we have a total labor cost, and this is just this times this. So we need to sum this by PM by system type and divide it by the number of hours by PM by system type. And again, because we're using tables, it makes life so much easier. So sum if S, I'll just go here once, but we want right here, labor cost, right? You can see in the formula labor cost, comma, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back here just to show you that once you learn the table structure, you don't need to keep going back and forth. So the next thing we want to do is we want to sum the labor cost, and then we want to do it by PM here, which is Brandon Shaw, in cell B3, comma, and then again table by system type, comma, and then it's right here. So this is the total labor cost that's attributed to Brandon Shaw and Controls retrofit. And then what we want to do is we want to divide this by the number of hours. So to save time, you can just copy that formula, divide it, and then just change the labor cost to hours. And then now you have an hourly rate, right? So it's just a little trick. Okay, so now we want to drag this over and drag this down, but we can't. And the reason is because we need to lock the cells. And what I mean by lock is you see here controls retrofit, but as we go down, it goes to 46. Like as you drag the formula down and over, all those cells move over as well. So wherever you see the column, like the blue, even though yours might not be blue, you want to put a $ before the column, so before the letter. So these two here. And then with the row, you want to do it between the row. Like between the letter and the number. So before the row, but after the column. And then now copy and paste. Don't drag it, because tables, the way tables work is you still have that issue of dragging. So don't drag, just copy and paste. Okay, so the next thing we want to do, I'm just going to center everything, is we want to overall for here and for here. And so to do an overall for the system type, we can just copy the formula, and then we need to take out the PM, right? Because we don't care about the PM in this scenario. So we have that, and then take out this, and then, so just copy and then paste. And then for this over here, I'm going to copy and paste this just to show you how, you can save some time these ways. Instead of copying the formula, you can just copy the cell. But now we want to take out overall. We want to take out all the red. So you can see here, we're going to take out this. And then let me just go to the formula because I can't see it. And then here, we're going to take out this. And then copy and paste. All right, so now we want to do a heat map. I mean, you can do the heat map here, but everything's so close, like it's not really going to be that useful. Because the main thing about this is we want to calculate all the other stuff. But if you want to do a heat map, highlight everything, hold down Control, and then you can highlight the overall. Go to Home, Conditional Formatting, Color Scales, and you can say, high is bad, or, green is low, high is red. And so, yeah, that's how you calculate, the hourly rate per job, the overall hourly rate. So it's gonna average your helpers versus, your senior techs. And then the next one here we want to do is we want to do a percent overage. And so it's going to be the sum of the hour variance divided by the planned, right? And so what I'll do is I will just copy this here, and then I'll just paste it here. And then I'm going to double click because this is a little bit weird. This part doesn't move. If you remember, we locked the cells to where it wouldn't change, which is exactly what we wanted. Okay, so now we want the variance. Let me highlight conditional formatting, manage or clear rules from selected cells. So make sure you select them. So the variance here is going to be the sum of the variance column divided by the sum of the planned column. So we just have to change, the hour variance here on the numerator, and then in the denominator, we can just type in planned hours, right? And so now you get a percentage. That's the benefit of using tables. I can copy, I can paste this over. And then here, instead of copying and deleting things, I can just do the same thing here. Variance, planned hours. And the same thing here. Variance, and then planned hours here. And then I'll show you how to create a quick little heat map. So say we want to highlight anything above 5%. So I'm going to put 5% in a cell, and I'm just going to highlight this, hold down Control, highlight this, and then go to conditional formatting, highlight cells greater than, and then click on this percentage. And now you have a dynamic cell, right? So if you change this, things will automatically change. I'm going to press Control 1, and then I'm going to use custom. And then from here, I'm going to do the target cell. I'm going to type in quotations, target, semicolon, or colon, space, quotations. And then from here, yeah, because if you do this, then you'll be able to share it with their team and they'll know it's a changing cell. And then I'll just make this blue. But now, like, it takes 10 minutes just to get everything set up to be able to show you, the real value of this insight. Because so far, these are all similar numbers. And even here, it's like, okay, like, what does that even mean? It's like, okay, is that a bad thing that it's, 9.3%? And so the next thing we want to do is we want to calculate the total cost, right? So what we want to do is we want to sum the variance, right? So we want to sum this column based off of the PM and the system type, and then multiply it off of the hourly rate for that PM and that system type. So again, I'm just going to copy this, Control C, and then Control Shift V. I'm not going to paste that here. And then what I'll do here is I'll just copy this formula and then paste, but bring these down. Just drag these down. And then what we're going to do, actually, we don't need that whole formula. So I brought over too much. So we're going to delete this, and then this is what we want, right? We want a sum. So 600, in other words, for Brandon Shaw in the data set, this isn't broken out by year. For controls and retrofit, he is 621 hours over, the projected. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to multiply this times the hourly rate. And this is the value, right? This is the valuable number here. And then I'm going to just paste that here. And you can do the overall, but the overall is just going to be the sum, right? You could just do equals sum of these, paste it over. And then I'll show you a little trick. If you highlight the 3 and press Alt equal, it'll automatically do the sum for you. And so, yeah, so this is the value, right? And if you want to do this, the overall sum, that's this right here. And that's the magic number, right? Based on overages, based on the hourly rate, it's $378,000 in the data set. So now the final thing we want to do is at the job level, right? So here, so essentially now what we're going to do is we're going to take the average of this. So in other words, I'll just copy this and paste it again, and then just drag this down. But all these numbers aren't really needed for now. So the thing that's really useful is like so this is we can put that up here. So now what we can do, I'll take that out. So this is 621 hours, right? The first part that we did here, but we don't want the sum of that. We want the average. So average FS. So in other words, on average, it's 3.72 hours more. The actual versus the planned is 3.72 hours, 3 hours and 45 minutes more. So now we want to multiply this times the hourly rate. And now you get $172. You just copy, paste that over. And then you can do the overall if you want, but this is the better version right here. And so yeah, anyways, that's essentially how you do this. And so if you have any questions about any of this stuff, let me know. But hourly rate alone isn't going to tell you what you want to know, right? I mean, unless there's just huge variances, which there shouldn't be. I mean, I'm sure you're not paying one, helper $10 an hour and another helper $50 an hour, right? It's just if you're paying them more on average per job because they're working more hours, because the PM isn't good at scheduling hours, that's where the issue is, because this is what you want to know. Even here, $172 per job, like that could be good, that could be bad. It's probably never good, but it could be, it could be bad. The scenario where it's good is if they upsold, right, projects. But anyways, that's all I got for this one. If you have any questions, shoot me an email, questions@databoards. If you want this data set, there's a link to download. If you need some help with this data set, just shoot me an email, or there's a link to my calendar. But anyways, that's all I got for this one, and I will see you in future videos.